Hi ceramic friends, this is Mrs. Bond again. I'm going to show you a method of transferring an image, just a paper image, to a piece of clay. And I'm going to use the example of my mug. It's just easier because I have it ready-made, ready to go. But you can use this on a tile, you can use this on a mug, you can use this on any surface that you wish. I'm just, for demonstration purposes, going to do that on it. So what I'm doing is I'm resting it on a sponge because I do not want the handle to be kind of affected. And I've picked an image. I have just a random image that I like, but I'm gonna kind of wrap it around my mug because I want it to be in the panels. And sometimes you see people actually wet kind of spritz it to wet it because it will sometimes stick better to the paper. I don't necessarily believe you need to do that, but if it makes you feel better, absolutely. But I'm going to just kind of use this image, and what you do is you just basically put the image down, you kind of flatten it as much as possible, and you use a ballpoint pen. I'm using red, and the reason why I use red is because that way I know what lines I've drawn, where I've been, and so forth. And basically you just kind of go over and you trace. And I'll peel this back in just a minute so you can see. And for some, this might be too much, and that's okay. But it gives you the idea of how you can, I think what I'll do is just do the major line outlining, and then I'll go back in and do other things. So I'm pressing enough that it's going to be seen into the clay surface. And let me go ahead and this one actually might go outside of the panel a bit, but we shall see. And if so, I can always remedy that by clicking, smoothing it out with the sponge, and if I like it going outside of the panel, maybe I just leave it. It's, you know, not necessary, but I kind of like it to keep it inside of the panel because if I'm doing hearts kind of on this outside area, I have a feeling that I'll be choosing red for the glaze that goes around the inside and outside, red or black, just so that I have that. And again, I use the ballpoint pen because it has a roller on the bottom, so it usually goes a bit smoother. You can use a pencil, can use virtually any instrument that has a point on it. I would not necessarily use the needle tool because the needle tool will sometimes scratch and rip the paper, and if that's the case, sometimes that can be irritating. But in the event that you don't have, see what I did right there, so I would use the ballpoint pen because you can really move it around without too many issues. And again, I'm just doing the major outlines of these. I'll go back in and do the little filler lines. Maybe I'll do some on the smaller ones, but on the larger ones, it's kind of Zentangle-ish. So if you've ever done Zentangles, it's just a nice way of kind of filling in space and calming down at the same time. And that's one of the reasons why I picked this one, is because I wanted to kind of do Zentangle-ish stuff on it. Easy way to fill in little spaces. There, I ripped the paper again. But let me go ahead and turn this just a little bit. And again, I'm not touching the handle. The sponge is supporting the cup so that I am not having a hard surface. You can actually do this with chair cushions. my other schools, I've actually had students find them on the road and bring them in for extra credit because they are amazing. You just push, it's a great way to protect your piece without it warping. Let's do this. Okay. And it may turn out a little bit messy, but I'm not worried about that because I can always clean it up however I want it to be. And if you peel it off and you decide you hate it, you can always just smooth it back with a sponge. I'm sorry, not with a sponge, with a rib. Sponges is going to bring up the grit. So you definitely want to sponge it. Sponge. Not enough caffeine. Ribbit. Ribbit. Like Kermit. So lots of little hearts. I think I am near the end of my panel. Might be a good idea to kind of tape off where you know the end of your panel is going to be so you don't go beyond that. But if you're not that concerned, then there's no big whoop. Sometimes it is interesting when things go outside of the panel. Okay. Just filling in that. Just so you guys have an idea when I lift this off that gives that full effect. And whenever I'm drawing or designing or painting, I like to fill in the space. So I often take a great advantage in making sure I add extra lines, extra design. Sometimes it suits the design, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't suit your design, then don't do it. But in some cases, it's actually kind of nice. And so here I know I have this part